Hi guys, hopefully all of you are doing well. Today we're going to be making my sausage and sage cornbread dressing. I've actually had this recipe up on my website for over a year and a half. And then last year I presented it as being available and ready, but I didn't get a chance to do a video on it, so I wanted to make sure that I took the time to do that this year. If you just want to make a sage dressing, you can just leave the sausage out for those of you who don't want meat in your dressings. But I also have another recipe that will walk you through the steps without using meat. So you'll have a choice of the two. But this one is really good. My family really enjoys this one. Even with chicken during the regular time of the year, no matter what, we love it with just roasted chicken. Check it out. So let's start off by making our cornbread first. Here I'm mixing up some all-purpose flour, cornmeal, a tad bit of sugar, some baking powder, and some salt. And then after that I'm gonna make a well in the center, and I'm gonna pour in some room temperature buttermilk, followed by some vegetable oil and some beaten eggs. Just to be very clear, just because this cornbread has like a half a cup of sugar does not mean that your dressing is going to turn out sweet. This cornbread is very savory. And if you guys recognize, this is my sweet cornbread recipe with the sugar toned extremely down. But you do need balance, so you still have a half a cup of sugar in the recipe. And by the time the dressing is made, you won't taste it at all. It'll be very savory and very spiced up. The cornbread is all done. Now we're just going to pour it into the baking dish with 3 tablespoons of melted butter. But here I'm showing you guys my roasted garlic and herb butter compound that I have laying around. And I showed how to make this in another video. So that's what I'm using. You can just use plain butter. But I decided to use this because I do keep it around for savory dishes. So I'm just going to pour the cornbread over the melted butter. And we're going to bake it off. We're going to bake it off at 375 degrees for about 35 to 40 minutes or until the top is nice and golden brown. So on the day of making the dressing, which is 1 or 2 days later, all you have to do is remove it from the baking dish and crumple it up in a nice big bowl. The reason why I like to make my cornbread ahead of time is because it gives it a chance to set up a little bit and just dry out a tad. Not too much, but it's much better to crumple up. Now I have my bell pepper, celery, onions, and garlic that's already been chopped, and my fresh herbs, which is some fresh thyme, fresh parsley, and definitely fresh sage. And I'm just gonna chop all of those up. I only have a little bit to do because I did some ahead of time. Just finish chopping up your herbs because this recipe moves fast after this, so all of your chopping and dicing needs to be done. Moving right along to the sausage, I'm using Italian turkey sausage, which is mild, or you can use the spicy. The reason why I use Italian sausage is because Italian sausage has the same flavor profile of a lot of the seasonings that you're already using in the dressing. So it's like getting more bang for your buck seasoning wise, and you don't have to do as much work. So we're just gonna put it in a pan with a couple of tablespoons of vegetable oil or olive oil and brown it off. Once the sausage is all brown, you're gonna just take it out of the pan with a slotted spoon, and you're going to set it aside. Now we're going to move on to our vegetables. Now I'm going in with about 3 or 4 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and then I'm going in with a stick of butter that has been diced up. Now I know what you're saying, why so much? Well, here's what's happening. If you would try to saute all those vegetables that we chopped up in just the butter alone, the butter would probably burn. The vegetable oil has a higher burning point, so the vegetable oil keeps the butter from burning. So that's why I combined the two together. And we got about 5 cups of diced vegetables going here. So that's plenty of moisture that you're gonna offer to sweat these vegetables out. And you scraped up the bottom of those bits from the meat. And so what you're building is the base for a big flavor bomb. Now that the vegetables have become translucent, we're gonna go in with all of our garlic and all of the chopped herbs. And you're gonna continue to saute everything together. So after all of the vegetables and herbs are nice and sauteed, we're just gonna let them cool for a few minutes, and then we're gonna add them straight to our cornbread, moisture and all. And then we're gonna take the crumpled Italian sausage and add that in. And then we're gonna go in with our seasoning. I'm going in with 3 tablespoons of Grand Diamond all-purpose seasoning, which you can check out at gdseasoning.com. And then I'm gonna follow that with some unsalted poultry seasoning. Now the reason why I'm using unsalted poultry seasoning is because we're bringing a lot of ingredients to this dish that are already salted. We're using the seasoning, we're using sausage, of course, that has a level of sodium, and we're gonna be using a chicken stock that's low in sodium. And I do that because I want to keep my hand or control over the sodium that goes into the dish. Now once you add the stock to the dish, then you can taste it and season it to your liking at that point, because how it tastes at that point is how it's going to taste once it's cooked. So after I gave it a taste, I went on and put me some pepper in there and a little bit more salt. I think I went in with like a teaspoon, 1.5 teaspoons, and finally finished up with the beaten eggs and just mix that together. By the way, if your turkey is made before your dressing, you can also add some of your turkey drippings into your dressing if it's already cooked. But when this recipe was written, and of course during this video, there was not a turkey in sight. So as you can see, this recipe makes quite a bit of dressing, 2 9x13 pans. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to bake it off uncovered at 350 degrees for about 1 hour and 15 to about 1 hour and 30 minutes. Make sure that you have no more than 2 to 2.5 inches of dressing in each pan, because that's how you're going to keep the cooking time short. If you make the dressing any deeper, it's going to take longer to cook. Once the dressing comes out of the oven, the top is slightly brown, which I love, and the rest of it is still moist and delicious, ready to be put on a plate with some gravy and some cranberry sauce. Yeah, all of the things that makes things right about dressing. Thank you guys so much for coming and cooking with me and hanging out. You know I appreciate it. For these recipes and others, go to gdseasoning.com. The link is in the description, and I'll see you guys next time.